Callum Catering. Today we're going to continue our Instapot cooking series. Today we're going to go ahead and do a chicken tortilla soup. The recipe was furnished by Dee Dee Pierce at Canyon Vista Superstition Views. Thank you, Dee Dee, for supplying your recipe for us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pot. Preheated my Instapot. We're going to start with our carrots and onions. We're going to cook that until the onions are translucent. Right, as you can see, our onions are nice and translucent. We're going to go ahead and add the garlic and let that saute just for a minute, just to get rid of the raw flavor of the garlic. And from there, we're going to go ahead and add everything to the pot essentially. The recipe called for 1 chicken breast. I went ahead and added 2 chicken breasts. They were a little bit small. Just going to spread those out throughout the pan, the bottom of the pan. We're going to add our corn. It's a Fiesta corn with peppers and onions also. A can of diced fire roasted tomatoes. 1 can of black beans. Don't forget your tortillas. I went ahead, corn tortillas. I went ahead and julienned them, give them a little bit of a chop. This is going to add as your thickener. Go ahead and add that in. A little bit of salt. A pinch of black pepper. The juice of 1 lime. You will want to roll your lime around a little bit and break it up so you get more juice out of that. I'm going to go ahead and cheat and just use this little juicer. They're pretty convenient. This way you'll get all the juice out of your lime. Essentially there's no waste. It strains out any pulp, so you don't have the pulp in there. We're going to go ahead and add our, I believe it was the chili powder. 2 teaspoons of chili powder. And 2 teaspoons of cumin. Give that a quick stir. And we're about 25 minutes away from having a delicious tortilla soup. Just give that a nice stir to incorporate everything. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of chopped cilantro, and then we'll finish with a little chopped cilantro too. Go ahead and add the chicken broth. It does call for cream cheese, but you will finish with the cream cheese. I'm going to go ahead and add that chicken broth. Just make sure all your chicken is submerged. We're going to go ahead and set the timer, 25 minutes, and then we're going to do a natural release on that. And what's really important with these pressure cookers is you always want to do a natural release first after some research. If you don't, your proteins will get really, really dried out, especially if you're doing, say, a roast or something like that. It will, you pull it out too soon and don't let it rest. Just as if you were cooking it in a conventional oven, it will dry out because the steam will evaporate extremely fast and leave you with just a dry, hard piece of meat. So we're going to go ahead and put our lid on, set our timer, and we'll see you back here in about 25 minutes. Thanks. Okay, y'all, it's been 25 minutes. The instructions say to go ahead and let your pressure cooker do a natural release. Once your pressure cooker is done processing, it would automatically go into a warm setting, and therefore you might not be able to see it right here. There's a red button. That's going to be at the top. You know that natural release is done when your red button drops to the bottom, and then you feel free to go ahead and hit your vent. I'm not going to do that until after my red button drops. Okay, now that it's done its natural release, you'll see the little red button here is all the way seated below the surface. I'm just going to release the vent. Just turn it sideways. As you can see, not a lot happens, just more for safety. And we're going to turn the lid. Here's our finished product. We're going to whisk in a little bit of cream cheese. We'll finish it off with the cream cheese that's in the recipe. As you can see, it got nice and creamy inside. That's that tortilla that we added earlier as a thickening agent. That worked out very well. It was just brought to my attention earlier today that Dee Dee Pierce is actually an instructor at Canyon Vistas in season and does these classes out at Canyon Vistas during the season. So change the color a little bit, nice and creamy. We're just going to boil it up and give it a try. Those tomatoes in there look lovely. There you go, that's your finished products. A little bit of crispy tortillas on top. A little bit of fresh cilantro. Garnish with a lime. And a little sour cream. A little dollop of sour cream. A little dollop of daisy always does great. And there you go, folks. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next class. It's on an Instapot beef bourguignon. The recipe calls that we pre-cook some bacon and let it rest on a paper towel and set aside. I have already taken that step out of there. So I have that done. It's also 3 pounds of chuck, which has been diced it into about 2-inch pieces. I'm going to go ahead and lay this out on a sheet pan. Now, if you are looking at the recipe, this is not in the description. I just know from personal experience it's going to help we're going to dust it with some flour, and it's going to help brown the beef a little bit more even, a little bit quicker, and it's going to also help build the fond, which are the little bit pieces on the bottom of the pot. I'm going to go ahead and season the beef, so as your guests eat this, the beef itself will already have a nice seasoning on it. So I've laid this out on a sheet pan. It's one of the easiest ways to do this. We're going to go ahead and sprinkle with a little bit of salt. And pepper. We're going to dust it with just a little bit of flour. It's not a lot, just enough to coat the sides. And then we're going to toss that. We're going to roll it over, give it another dusting, and then we will go on to the next step, which is searing the beef. I did go ahead and I left the bacon fat and the oil in the pan. So you're just going to toss that up. Get it nice and coated on all sides. You can see my Instapot I have preheated. We're just going to add this beef a little bit at a time and brown this on all sides. We'll be turning it with our set of tongs during that time. So we're just going to go ahead and saute these pieces of beef up, turning them occasionally to get nice color all the way around on each side. And I have all the meat seared on all sides. I don't know if you can see inside it here. I pulled some out. Nice golden brown is what you're looking for. I'm going to go ahead and add those back. I just did that for your visual reasons. And then now that that part is done, we're going to go ahead and add our red wine. We're going to pour that in, scraping anything that might have collected on the bottom. This is a non-stick bottom, so not very much stuck. A little bit of history while we're waiting for the red wine to reduce for about 5 minutes. Beef bourguignon was kind of documented around the 19th century. It is literally a beef stew that has been cooked in red wine. It's braised in red wine, and typically with mushrooms and onions, I believe, is the first recipe. Personally, I love it myself also. This is reducing very nicely. It's looking good. And essentially at this point, you're just going to slowly start adding in your wet ingredients. Your tomato sauce. And add our carrots, our onions, our mushrooms, and our beef broth. I like to add all that. For the next step is we're going to add our garlic, our fresh thyme, and then our flour. And beef bouillon, I use a wet bouillon, so I'm just adding that to the pot. We're going to give all this a stir together, and then we're going to add our flour, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of use a whisk to break up any flour. There's my garlic. Pull my spatula out. I'm going to whisk all this together. Add in the flour gradually so it doesn't become real lumpy. Now your flour is going to act as your thickener. As many of you may know, you would use butter and flour, make your roux. This is kind of just going the back way of doing it. Maybe it's the Instapot, I'm not quite sure. Okay. I went ahead and made a sachet. Oh, can't forget the potatoes. So here I just bought petite golden potatoes. It asks for 1 pound. This is 1 pound 8 ounces. So I'm just going to use about half of that bag. We're going to close our lid, set it to pressure cook. We're going to let this cook for about 40 minutes, I believe is what the instructions say. And then we're going to, 45 minutes, and then we're going to let it vent, naturally vent. We're going to go ahead and release the lid here. And once you release the lid, you're going to set back to saute. Hit start. And then you're going to let that cook for about 5-10 minutes to let it thicken. Meantime, for a little nice garnish here, we're going to add a little bit of oil to a pan, a little pat of butter. We're going to let that melt. I'm going to go ahead and slice up nice and thick the same mushrooms I put in here. Over here, we'll go ahead and add our mushrooms to our butter. Get some nice color on those, and then we're going to pull them off, let them set on a paper towel for a minute, and that'll be a nice garnish. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? Beef is broke down, it's nice and tender. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of those sauteed mushrooms there. Just gives it a nice little color. Some pearl onions right on top. Garnish with a little bit of fresh parsley. I like to add a little bit of fresh thyme leaves on there. That way your guests will get that full flavor. And a little bit of crispy bacon right around the edges. Again, just gives it a nice little crunch.